What happens when you discover the town where your ancestor comes from and you hop on Jewish Gen or JRI Poland or Litvoxig or one of these other websites and you see a long list of names with the surname of your ancestor and the same town, and you think to yourself, I must be related to these people, but I cannot for the life of me figure out how. How can you leverage your knowledge of Jewish naming traditions and pick up on the patterns that will help you connect the branches of your family together? I'm Yona Paley, and I believe genealogy is fun. And today, I'm going to be teaching you a method that I use that's helped me discover the links between various branches of my family. The first thing you have to remember is that Jewish naming patterns, especially back in the old country, are very predictable. It's super duper common for people to be named after deceased ancestors, which means that if somebody's mother was named Sorabela and she passed away, then the next daughter that would be born would probably be also named Sorabela. And you can use this knowledge to be able to figure out when people may have died, even if you don't have any records to be able to prove it conclusively. Here's an example. My great-great-grandfather was Aaron Milnicki, who lived in the small town of Wasilków in Poland. And most of his children immigrated to the United States at the turn of the 20th century. But Aaron died back in the old country and never came to America. And I've never been able to find his actual death record. But by leveraging my knowledge of the naming traditions, I was able to figure out approximately when he died. So out of 8 children, 6 of them named a son Aaron after him. And all of these Aarons were born between the years of around 1896 and 1922. Now, out of the 2 siblings who didn't name a child Aaron, one of them was because they only had daughters. And then the other one, which was the youngest child of Aaron's, his name was also Aaron. And he was born around 1896. This is a clear indicator that he was named after his father, who must have died shortly before he was born. Because in Ashkenazi naming traditions, it's considered to be bad luck to name someone after someone who's still alive. Which means that if somebody is named after an ancestor, that ancestor has to be dead. So by process of elimination, it's pretty clear that Aaron died sometime around 1896. Note that this is not the case for Sephardic Jews, as some Sephardic Jews will name children after people who are still alive. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. So now that you have the knowledge of how names tended to be given, here's the methodology that I use as a genealogical tool. All you need is a Google Docs or Microsoft Word sheet. You go through all the records you can find for unknown potential members of your family, and you start to fill them in on the sheet. Start with the furthest back members of your family and build it out record by record, generation by generation. You just hit number 1, dot, and then the space bar, and Google Docs will begin a numbered list for you. To move down a generation, you just hit the tab button on your keyboard. Bold the furthest back known ancestor in order to neatly place people into known family groupings. Here's an example of the sheet I made for my Lichtling family from Rohatin, Ukraine. There are dozens and dozens of people on the sheet, but instead of digging through family trees or disconnected notes, I have everything that is known about the family on one single document. If I need to reference something in the future, it's all here. The benefits of keeping these kinds of documents are noteworthy because you have all of the family groupings right next to each other. It can help you pick up on naming patterns. So let's say you know that someone in your family had a really uncommon name, and you see that name continuously crop up among people who are born with that surname in that town. Now, you might not know immediately how exactly those people are related to you, but it's a good indicator that they are related to you and not very distantly. Eventually, your goal should be to consolidate these groups into as few as possible. So as you learn information, you will reduce the number of groupings with the eventual goal of trying to figure out how everyone is related to everyone else. It's sort of like doing a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, but when you only have a fraction of the pieces. So what you have to do is put together the pieces that you can and make sure they're standing by in case you can connect them to another group of pieces. I keep a sheet like this for every branch of my family that I'm actively researching. I find it to be much more useful than keeping dozens and dozens of individual trees or even fallen branches, which are groups of families that people keep in their tree without connecting it to the rest of it. This is something that I prefer because it's simple, it's text-based, so it's easy to search, and it allows you to view side by side all the different groups and pick up on naming patterns, which are hugely important in Ashkenazi Jewish research. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever used an organizational tool such as this one in your own genealogy research. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm always looking forward to bringing you more videos on famous Jews, as well as tips and tricks, such as this one, that you can use in your own genealogy research. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.